This is an overview of the Horizon Software Starter Pack. So this came free, it came bundled with the ZX Spectrum, and it was designed by Scion Software and published by Sinclair Research in 1982 onwards. The side A is what we're going to be looking at today, and it basically contains 6 separately loading tutorials which gives you a look at the hardware and how to use the really complicated to begin with keyboard. So there's so many different ways to access all the different keyboard keywords basically, but we'll have a look at the first part. So this gives you a really basic look at the setup of the computer. So you've got your ROM, your RAM, the CPU and the ULA, which is basically the connection with the outside world. It talks you through the different sections, so what the CPU does, what the ROM does, what the RAM does, and how that connects up to the ULA. So this was all written in BASIC. So now obviously it's explaining what RAM is and that you can change elements of RAM, unlike ROM, which is static memory. I remember seeing this for the first time. I had a friend called Ian Smith, and he was basically the kid that got everything about a year before I got everything. So he had his ZX81 a year before I did, and then I got his ZX81 when the price dropped and the Spectrum came out the year after. So, and I remember going to his house when he just got his Spectrum for Christmas, and he couldn't wait to show me the Horizons tape, which just basically took you through all this information. And yeah, I think it's one of those things you only play the once, you put it on, you go through all of it, and then it just stays on your shelf and you never ever watch it ever again. So it's quite nostalgic looking at this. So obviously the first part is an explanation of how the internals of the Spectrum work. Shortly it's going to go into some keyboard tutorials which takes you through things like how to get capital letters, how to get lowercase letters. That was actually a big step up from the ZX81, which only had capitals. So what I've done is I've edited the video. Oh, thank you as well to Patrick Farlong for putting this video together. So what I've done is I've just cut out the loading parts of it just to speed up what we're watching. This is all written in BASIC, as I said, so it's important that when you're actually playing this, you don't accidentally press break, because you'll break into the program and it'll just stop. So again, it's 4 different lessons, and right at the end there's a little glossary of all the different keyword terms. And this explains all the different shenanigans with the keys. So just to explain, because it was keyword led, the Spectrum keyboard, I don't know if you can see the keyboard just to the left and right of the actual screen, it had what was called keywords. You could type in full sentences but not in BASIC. So BASIC was to save memory, what's called keywords. So you can see there's new, there's plot. If you press different combinations of other keys, you can get into different modes. So shift would give you the words in red actually on the keys or the symbols. Caps would, I can't even remember, to be quite honest, it got you different modes. I think if you pressed cap, shift, and something else, you could switch to the different modes, and that would enable you to either get the green words just above the rubber keys, or the red words underneath. If you didn't put it into any mode at all, if you just pressed a key, it would just come up with that keyword. So that would be the white words actually on the letters. This is what it's taking you through just now. So this was actually quite a good idea to explain how to get the different keywords. You'd press just the letter L for load, which Patrick's just done there, look. List, I think, was on the K button. Yeah, so it's gone for L. So if you're playing the Horizons tape on an emulator, it's really important if you're doing this to actually have a picture of the keyboard, because obviously PC keyboards sound the same as a Spectrum keyboard. So stop would have been on the S key. Yeah, so if it always confused anybody that came from a different home computer background. So let's say you was a Commodore 64 user. When presented with a Spectrum keyboard, they had absolutely no clue what they were doing. It was really, really funny to watch them. And it did take about 2 or 3 days of using a Spectrum to actually get used to all these different modes, like extended mode, and so on. It was the only way they could get so much usage out of the computer, basically. So whereas the BBC, let's say BBC Micro, when you were typing in BASIC using that, you would literally have to type out each word, so letter by letter. And every time you save a letter into memory, that takes up, let's say, a byte or something like that, right? So the word print, that's 5 bytes, sorry. On a Spectrum, because the keywords are coded, that would take up 1 byte. So you're saving a lot of memory, and obviously the longer the words, the basic words, the more you're saving by using keywords. Downside would be that obviously it's a pain in the arse to remember them all. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. Just out of interest as well, so this is the rubber keyed version. This is the first version of the Spectrum, and it's probably the one I preferred, simply because the later machines, which are nicknamed things like the Toast Rack, they had plastic keys that were technically a better keyboard, but there was no spaces between the keys. It was just a solid mass of keys, and you had to sort of press them down with the end of your fingers, the tips of your fingers. Whereas like on a BBC computer, let's say, you had a bit of space, you could just type it properly, That's why I liked the Spectrum rubber keyboard personally. So again, we're just sort of fast forwarding through. These lessons are actually a lot longer, and Patrick had to really struggle to get through them. But what I've done is I've just shown an example of each, 2 or 3 examples of each lesson, just as an indicator, really. So G, this is a good one actually, because you've got user-defined graphics on a Spectrum, and that was one of the ways to get high-res graphics. You still had all the different block graphics as well that you had on the ZX81, but you could define some of them to be different, or some letters of the alphabet to be different things. You could define your own. So I can't remember if it went all the way up to Z. I can't remember how many you had now, but you could define in graphics mode, let's say Q, to be a Space Invader. That would be an 8x8 pixel block, a character block. And the way you would do that is you can either use a character generator, which is actually on side B of the cassette, or you could just work out the actual binary code yourself on graph paper and type them in. In fact, if you played any games that were written in a listing from a magazine, if you typed in a listing from a magazine, it would actually show you the 8 different data for each user-defined graphic, and once you ran it the first time, it would just show as a letter, let's say Q. Once you ran the software, it would define Q as a graphic, and it was magical. Suddenly, it just appeared like a little Space Invader, or a little guy or whatever. So yeah, it's going to go over that soon. I think that's the last lesson. And this is the dictionary. So this is just like a more of a space saver, I think. Really, it's basically just a dictionary of all the keywords. They're in the manual anyway. There's not much point to this part of the actual part of the tape. But yeah, all in all, it's a good introduction to the Spectrum, and it's a good introduction to how to get the keywords working. Yeah, it's quite nostalgic. Well, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I'm going to stop it just there.